I launched Project Croydon at the start of December 2020 after binge watching the M539 Restorations channel on YouTube throughout 2020 and his Project Cologne, where he refurbishes a BMW E46 325i Touring. I resolved to try and get myself a cheap daily runner, as I have an E93 convertible that is impractical in the winter. I was astonished at M539 Restorations buying a BMW with 200,000 miles and continuing to refurbish and restore that car. I also seem to have approached the age in life where one looks at an estate car and thinks, that looks rather nice. So a few days later, the dream becomes a reality when the car is delivered by anyvan.com. If you are requiring a car transported, I would highly recommend anyvan.com. They are brilliant. One of the key factors that resulted in me purchasing this E91 Touring over an E46 Touring wasn't just the horsepower, but the paint work as well tends to be pretty poor on a lot of E46s in this price range. This looks absolutely amazing, ready for 1600 quid. I have lovely tinted windows and the 18-inch alloys with the upgraded rear bumper. It just looks very, very classy from the back. Looking to update the tailgate to the LCI version. I've never really been a big fan of those rear tail lights. So classic 325i. We have M Sport door sills, and lacking the heated seating option that I never really use anyway. The M Sport steering wheel with the Bluetooth option, which isn't enabled on this car, but I'll be looking to install. Automatic lights, again I'll be looking to update the front headlights to the bi-xenons in due course. You know, all the automatic function on the steering wheel that makes using the car very easy when you're driving. Classic 6-speed gearbox there, dynamic traction control, an option many people never use, which is a real sort of secret really with these inline 6 engines. Alcantara seats, and yeah, what a view at the top really of the car there. Still deciding really whether to keep the Alcantara seats, but they have grown on me. I was dead set on replacing them with leather, and yes, the 18-inch alloys. A quick look at the engine bay. This is the N52 engine, the first version of the N52 engine, which is why I got this car, and it's just had the valve cover gasket replaced, which is a very expensive item that tends to fail when these cars have a lot of miles, so I won't have to deal with that. It's also had the oil filter housing gasket, which is another common failure, and the classic 6 cylinders there that you can see. So two of the major failure points on this car have been addressed. I'll be looking to get the water pump replaced, no doubt. So yeah, all in all, a lovely car, in very, very good condition, no marks or blemishes at all, very upgradable, and an absolute steal, if I'm honest, for £1,600. Straight after Christmas, my Ring charger arrives. Absolutely thrilled because I managed to get 60 quid knocked off. You can see that the dashboard is alight there. The battery charger is charging the car. Unfortunately, this blew up the very next day, so I was back to square one. I was convinced by the technician in Screwfix that this particular charger had never given him problems, so I decided to purchase another charger from the same brand. Notice here that the dashboard is flashing, where with the previous 12 amp charger the dashboard was constant in terms of the lighting of the dashboard. It was constant. Here it's flashing. That should have set the alarm bells ringing. You can see that lovely 6-speed manual gearbox, dynamic traction control, lovely tinted windows, and the tailgate, but no power. So I've decided to change the battery today, but there's no power. I'm wanting to replace the battery because that's dead and there's no power going to the car. I managed to open the doors by using the key. There is a key that opens the front door and the door latches, but there isn't anything that will open the tailgate. So what you have to do is you have to access the tailgate internally, and there's a latch, there's a little ring behind the panel that you pull that will release the tailgate, and that is what I'm trying to access at the moment. It can be a little bit fiddly, so there you are. I've managed to get behind that panel, and I've got my finger in the little ring. Unfortunately this time I didn't pull the ring strongly enough, so the door's still locked, but in a few moments you'll find that I'll open the tailgate by releasing it by pulling that ring. So if you have a BMW with no power and it's an E91 Touring, the only way to open the tailgate is by accessing this pull, this little ring pull that's behind the panel on the tailgate, and as you can see there's some light entering the car. I have access ready. I've opened the boot. I can see the garage and some snow at the back. That is how you access the little ring pull at the back of the car, and how you can open the boot of a BMW Touring, so you can get access to the back, so obviously you can install the battery. So now I have access to the rear of the car. I can remove the battery. You remove the panel on the bottom. The battery is located to the right, and there's a couple of clips that you remove, and that will allow you to remove the panel on the right. There's a couple of clips, some turn clips at the top. There's two of them. There's the second one, and you just lift that little piece of plastic covering that protects the battery, and you're going to need a 10mm socket to remove the two screws on the bracket that is over the battery. You'll also need that 10mm socket to remove the two connectors to the battery. There are also some clips. You can see there's a sort of red cable at the back. You'll also need to release some of those clips to allow you easier access to the battery. I've never ever done this before, so it's going to be quite interesting. I remember I've paid around 250 or 300 quid in the past to have this work done when the battery on my BMW has failed after several years use. This is something that occurs periodically from time to time, so for me it's been quite educational, just knowing how to access really the back of the car, but just the diagnosis of just charging a car. This isn't anything I'd ever done in the past. I'd always just been pretty naive and relied on emergency services, but I'm going to feel much happier really in the future owning this car, because I know when certain aspects break down, I can intervene and hopefully save me a little bit of money. This is one of the main reasons why you've got so many YouTubers that are creating videos where there are times that you definitely need specialist technicians to perform particular actions on your car, but you should really be able to change the battery or do an oil filter, a fuel filter service on your car, replace the car, look after your coolant and so forth. These are the things that add to the bill of looking after a car. And there you can see I've just broken my screwdriver that I'd connected to the 10mm socket. This was a cheap little toolkit that I purchased from just a bric-a-brac shop, so I'll have to use the actual socket sort of connector, not the little flimsy plastic socket screw driver that you have just seen me break there. So we're trying to remove, there's a bracket, as you can see, that's on top of the battery. There are two 10mm screws, one going into the panel on the right, and one also vertically, you know, to me really, that right by the negative terminus, a little bit to the left. There's another socket. You'll see me remove that. It's relatively easy. So to be honest, there are just 4 or 5 screws that you need to remove to gain access to the battery, and also just remove some of the plastic covering. So there, I believe I've got a 10mm socket, probably the wrong size, but that should allow me to remove the bracket that covers the battery. My spider sense is going berserk because my 320 diesel had a huge Bosch battery, and here I'm removing a tiny little Lion battery that I suspect is causing the issue. So I went to purchase a replacement battery, and the car parts shop agreed with me and gave me a larger battery, a bit more consistent with the Bosch one that I had in my 320 diesel. If this battery is the correct one, I will exchange this for an OEM one when this one's time expires, but at the moment I'm trying to keep my operating costs down and not buying OEM everything until I'm absolutely certain of the part. Here fumbling about to try and get the battery in. It usually takes two people to do this, so be aware of that if you're going to try and do this yourself. You're trying to add a pretty heavy battery, and there we are. Lovely job. It just freaking started, bloody hell. It needed a new battery. It needed a fucking new battery. Can you believe it? Rightio, right behind me we have a BMW 325i. I've just done some basic problem solving and it's running. Basically I just changed the battery and the car runs.